Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. So I had to make a quick trip to Oregon, and while I was here, there was a place that I really wanted to check out. So I've driven over to the Oregon coast to a place where man took on nature. And as most of us know, in the end, nature always wins. So today I am at the Bayocean Peninsula, and we're going to be taking a look at a town that was once called the Atlantic City of the Pacific, the vanished town of Bayocean. The temperatures are in the low 40s right now, and it looks like some bad weather might be on the way. But then again, bad weather is fitting for the story of Bayocean. The Bayocean Peninsula is near Tillamook, which of course is known for its cheese, about an hour and a half west of Portland. In what probably should have been a warning to the people trying to build here, local tribes had a story that the peninsula was the phallus of a godlike being, and occasionally, when the god was bad, the phallus would be severed. It was on this peninsula in front of us that in 1906 the town of Bayocean was formed. I had mentioned they wanted to be like Atlantic City. In the end, they ended up more like Atlantis. Behind us is Cape Meares. That big rock in the ocean is Pyramid Rock, and the smaller one is called Pillar Rock. To continue with the story of Bayocean, we're going to head a bit deeper onto the peninsula, but to do that, we have to go around what is now Cape Meares Lake. The lake actually covers where part of the city once was. The Bayocean Peninsula separates the Pacific Ocean and the Tillamook Bay. The bay was once called Murderer's Harbor. It was given that name because a ship called the Lady Washington, captained by Robert Gray, arrived here on August 14, 1788. They anchored off the entrance to the bay, near the north end of Bayocean Peninsula, and there they were met by a canoe full of members of the Tillamook tribe. The meeting between the Americans and the natives got off to a good start with an exchange of gifts, and while both groups kept their weapons ready, Captain Gray felt the relations were good enough to send a party ashore to gather wood and fresh water. A couple of days later, there was a shore party that included a man named Marcus Lopius, a cabin attendant from Africa's Cape Verde island. As the group was ashore, a native grabbed Lopius's cutlass and ran off with it. Lopius ran after him, and when he caught the native, several more Tillamook came out to assist their friend by plunging spears into Lopius. Hence the name Murderer's Harbor. We've now made it to the parking area, which is maybe a quarter of the way up the peninsula, and there is a fee of $10 to park here. We're walking on the bay side of the peninsula, and there should be a trail leading into the interior somewhere up ahead. It's amazing to think there was once a town right here, a town with some major infrastructure. Here's a kiosk with information on Bayocean, and this is where we'll turn and take a walk through the town. The kiosk has a really good map of the former town site to kind of give an idea of what was once here, and we're right about in the middle where the dock was right now. The trail is pretty overgrown here, but I don't think we'll have to worry about snakes. It's kind of amazing to think that 10 feet underneath us right now are paved roads. A man named Thomas Irving Potter and his father, Thomas Benton Potter, founded Bayocean in 1906, as they thought it was an ideal place for a resort, being the closest beach to Portland, which was by far the largest city in the area. The Potters had grand designs for the resort town, including a planned $250,000 hotel. It might be hard to believe looking around now, but eventually Bayocean would have a dance hall, a hotel with an orchestra, a 1,000-seat movie theater, a shooting range, a bowling alley, tennis courts, its own rail system, and 4 miles of paved streets, all things that were very uncommon for towns of its size at the time. By mid-1907, Bayocean was being introduced to the world with full-page ads in newspapers across the country. The big problem still was getting here, with no good roads or train service from outside the town. And it took 3 days to get here from Portland by boat, over rough waters. In 1911, Potter had a yacht built to ferry up to 50 passengers at a time from Portland, greatly reducing the time. But shortly after the yacht began running, train service opened between Portland and Tillamook, which was a far easier journey for people trying to get to Bayocean. While Bayocean itself had paved roads, the town wouldn't be connected to the rest of the state by good roads until the 1920s. One of the things that was built here, and probably the first thing that'll come up if you search for any historic photos of the town, was the Bayocean Natatorium, a huge indoor swimming pool. It opened in 1914 and had heated salt water and a wave generator. It was 2 stories high and took up 5 oceanfront lots. Of course, all of this required lots of money to maintain, and they lost so much money on it, it closed by 1927. 1914 was really the height of Bayocean, and the beginning of the end. A lot of the people who bought property here were speculators, and the money the Potters were bringing in wasn't enough to keep up with the extravagant construction. So when construction slowed, the speculators got worried and stopped making payments. In 1915, Bayocean went into receivership. Bad finances alone aren't enough to completely wipe a town from the face of the earth, but something else in 1914 really sealed the town's fate. The mouth of the Tillamook Bay was rough for boats to get through, so the solution was to build jetties. Because of the cost, though, they opted to build only 1 jetty. This was a massive mistake, as 1 jetty is not better than 0 jetties. And once the jetty was built on the north end of the bay entrance, it helped direct the full fury of the ocean right at the Bayocean Peninsula. With the jetty directing waves right at Bayocean, the beaches began to erode. In 1932, waves broke through and destroyed the Natatorium. In 1952, the ocean cut through the peninsula completely, turning Bayocean into an island. Right now, we should be right in the heart of town, or above it at least. And I think I see something up in front of us. It looks like we've come across one of the markers showing where one of the buildings was. So about 100 years ago, we'd be standing inside the Bayocean Hotel right now. And this is what it looks like today. The first buildings along the ocean started to disappear by the late 1920s, but that didn't stop everyone from dreaming of Bayocean still becoming a resort town. One of the earliest people to buy into Bayocean was a man named Francis Mitchell, and he was probably the last person to let the dream go. He owned the general store and promoted Bayocean to everyone he knew. The town's demise must have broken him, because in 1953, after his wife had a stroke, he was judged insane and institutionalized. He would go on to promote Bayocean to his fellow patients at the Oregon State Hospital until he died in 1965. So it looks like we have another building marker over here. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so speaking of Mr. Mitchell, it looks like here's where the store was. It looks like there's another post up here. And the weather's starting to really get bad. It's starting to rain. Okay, this just says Bayocean town site. And it looks like there's another one right over here. And I'll get to why everything is 10 feet under us in just a moment. See what this is. Okay, so this one says Reader. I believe this was a residence here. It is just amazing how fast nature has reclaimed this peninsula. You would never believe there was a town here walking around. When the peninsula was breached, making Bayocean an island, it really disrupted the bay because there was now too little current to keep the channel clear at the entrance for ships to enter. So in 1956, the Army Corps of Engineers built a breakwater to close the gap. This created Mears Lake, where we were earlier, which covered a portion of where the town stood. The Bayocean Post Office closed in 1953, and the last house here washed away in 1960. The last building, a garage, fell into the ocean in 1971. Also in 1971, a south jetty was finally built, and the peninsula's shoreline immediately started growing again, and in turn began to bury the town site. Off in the distance, there's pyramid and pillar rocks. And right below us somewhere, probably under the waves, is where the Natatorium would have been. The concrete was left, but it's long since been buried. The cold rain is really starting to come down now, and much like the citizens of Bayocean, Mother Nature is telling us to get out of here. So that's our look at the vanished town of Bayocean. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.